The sky above Relaxus Prime burned with terrible red laser beams, the roars of warrior beasts echoing between crystal towers. No one is permitted to intervene. The command from the Galactic Council rang out firmly. But then, a series of green lights appeared on the horizon. They weren't spy signals, nor reconnaissance squads. They were. The Earth War fleet has arrived. Deep in the crystalline forest of Relaxus Prime, Kaylin Nerith clutched the small pendant her mother had given her before the Krith soldiers had taken everything away. The pendant glowed faintly blue against her azure skin, a reminder of what the Vendlari called the Tear of Fate, their belief that cosmic energy guided all actions. She peered through the dense canopy of ancient trees, watching as more red streaks tore across the purple sky. The floating crystal cities, once the pride of Relaxus, now trembled under continuous bombardment. "Stay down," whispered Lieutenant Kale Wren, his hand steady on her shoulder. His uniform, once pristine with the insignia of the Vendlari Protection Battalion, was now torn and smudged with dirt. "We need to get to the evacuation point before the next wave arrives." In the observation outpost orbiting Relaxus Prime, Colonel Zara Holt watched the horror unfold with clenched fists. Her dual heritage, half Terran, half Vendlari, had always been both her strength and her burden. The azure tint of her skin, inherited from her Vendlari mother, seemed to darken as the feeds showed more crystal towers crashing to the ground. "Colonel," her communications officer spoke quietly, "the Galactic Alliance has rejected our distress call again. They're citing the absolute neutrality policy regarding planetary internal conflicts." Zara's eyes narrowed. "This isn't an internal conflict. This is genocide." She turned to face the holographic projection, showing the massive Krith Dominion warships descending through the atmosphere. "What about Earth? Any response to our encrypted transmission?" "Nothing yet, Colonel. Earth's official stance remains aligned with their withdrawal from the Alliance. 10 years of silence hasn't changed." Zara moved to the observation window, watching the distant flares of destruction. She thought of her mother, a Vendlari high priestess, who had died trying to block Krith machine guns during the first wave of attacks. Her mother's final words echoed in her mind. "The cosmic energy guides lost souls, my daughter. But sometimes, we must be the guides ourselves." "Send another transmission to Earth," Zara commanded. "Add the footage of the refugee transport that was shot down this morning. Show them the children." As the officer complied, Zara felt the weight of her uniform, the uniform of a Galactic Alliance that refused to help. But beneath it, she wore a small pendant matching Kaylin's, a reminder of her oath. If no one will save them, then we must save ourselves. Far away in the Orion disk, hidden from the eyes of the Galactic Alliance, a fleet of ships hovered silently in the darkness. These weren't the ceremonial vessels of the Alliance, but something darker, more powerful, Earth's War Fleet Alpha, built in secret during the decades since Earth's departure from the Alliance. In the command center of the flagship, Admiral Marcus Vale studied the transmission from Colonel Holt. His weathered face remained impassive as images of destruction played across the screen. But his eyes hardened at the sight of Vendlari children being pulled from the wreckage of a transport vehicle. Earth's official position remains aligned with the Galactic Alliance's non-intervention policy, he stated, for the record. Then, switching off the official recording, he turned to his officers. "Unofficially, prepare the Thunder Squadron for immediate departure. We've seen enough." Senator Min Kwan, Earth's representative to the disbanded Alliance Relations Committee, stepped forward. "Admiral, I must caution that this action could trigger sanctions from the Alliance. We've spent 10 years rebuilding after their food blockades." Vale nodded grimly. "I understand the risk, Senator. But as you once said yourself, we cannot continue watching the Vendlari be destroyed. If the Alliance won't act, we will stand up to protect the lives of our fellow beings." The senator's expression softened. "I did say that, didn't I? Very well. When the historians write about this day, let them say Earth remembered what the Alliance forgot, that power without compassion is no power at all. As Vale issued commands to the waiting fleet, the massive ships began shifting their positions, their engines humming with energy as they prepared to change course toward Relaxis Prime. On the surface of Relaxis, Lieutenant Kyle Wren led Kalen and a group of refugees deeper into the ancient forest. The crystal trees, thousands of years old, provided some shelter from aerial detection. Once, these forests had been sacred to the Vendlari, places of meditation and prayer. Now, they were the last hope for survival. "Lieutenant," one of the elders spoke up, "we should form a prayer circle. The tear of fate will guide us." Kale hesitated. He respected the old ways, but prayers hadn't stopped the Krith war machines. Still, he nodded. "Make it quick. We need to reach the hidden valley before nightfall." As the Vendlari formed their circle, joining hands around a small crystal formation, Kale kept watch. His military training told him to focus on practical matters: food, shelter, weapons. But part of him still held on to the belief that somewhere in the universe, someone might hear their call. Little did he know that someone already had. In the orbiting outpost, Zara Holt received a response to her transmission, not from Earth's official channels, but from a secure frequency she hadn't seen in years. The message was brief. "No one is permitted to intervene, but we're coming anyway. Hold position. Thunder Squadron ETA, 6 hours." For the first time in weeks, Zara allowed herself to smile. The Krith Dominion command ship hovered above the largest crystal city of Relaxis Prime. Inside its obsidian hull, Archon Sizer observed the destruction with cold satisfaction. His pale, scaled skin reflected the red glow of the tactical displays as reports of another successful bombardment came in. "Send the mangle beasts into the western forest sector," he ordered. "The life signs there are stronger. They're gathering." His second-in-command bowed. "And the broadcast ultimatum, Archon. Proceed. All crystal cities must surrender within 2 moon cycles. Any resistance will be met with the mythic Earth Serpent." The mythic Earth Serpent, the Krith's energy cannon capable of sinking an entire crystal continent in seconds. The threat alone had sent millions of Vendlari fleeing into the ancient forests. "Archon," his communication officer interrupted. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures approaching from the Orion sector. They don't match any known Galactic Alliance configuration." Cesar's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The display shifted to show distant points of light, moving with deliberate precision toward Relaxis Prime. Their energy signatures were masked, but their formation was unmistakably military. "Could it be Earth?" his second suggested. "They've been silent since withdrawing from the Alliance." "Earth is a spent force," Sizer dismissed. "They've been struggling under Alliance food sanctions. They wouldn't dare violate the non-intervention treaty." Nevertheless, he added, "Prepare the dreadnought escort anyway. If these are merely merchants seeking to profit from chaos, they'll learn what happens to those who enter Krith territory uninvited." 6 hours later, the purple sky of Relaxis Prime erupted with a new light. Not the red destruction of Krith weapons, but brilliant green pulses as the Thunder Squadron dropped out of hyperspace directly above the crystal cities. The triangular black ships of Earth's fleet emerged in perfect formation, their hulls absorbing and deflecting the scans from Krith vessels. For a moment, both sides hung in uneasy stillness, evaluating each other across the void. Then, Admiral Vale's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "Attention Krith Dominion forces. All Vendlari citizens are now under the protection of the Earth Federation. Withdraw immediately from Relaxis Prime." From his command ship, Archon Sizer responded with chilling calm. "This moss-covered species has no strategic value. If you choose to protect them, prepare to become their shield against our bullets." Vale's response was not in words, but in action. Before the Krith escorts could raise their shields, a barrage of energy missiles streaked from the Earth vessels, precisely targeting the propulsion systems of the Krith scout ships. The lightning-fast attack left the Krith reeling, unprepared for Earth's enhanced technology. On the planet below, Kale Ren and his refugees looked up in astonishment as the night sky lit up with explosions. The Vendlari elders, still arranged in their prayer circle, gasped as green lights flashed against the darkness. "The light from elsewhere," an elder whispered in awe. Just as the ancient texts foretold. Kale wasn't sure about ancient prophecies, but he recognized a military engagement when he saw one. "Someone's fighting the Krith," he announced to the gathered refugees. "And it's not the Alliance." In her observation post, Colonel Zara Holt watched the Earth fleet engage with a mixture of relief and trepidation. The Thunder Squadron was impressive, far more advanced than she'd expected. But the Krith Dominion had numbers, and the infamous dreadnoughts still in reserve. Her communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission from Earth's flagship. "Colonel Holt," Admiral Vale's face appeared on the screen. "We received your distress call. Earth may have left the Alliance, but we haven't forgotten our duty to protect innocent lives." "Admiral," Zara responded, struggling to maintain protocol through her emotion. "The Vendlari thank you, but the Krith will call for reinforcements. They won't surrender Relaxus easily." "We're counting on that," Vale replied, with grim determination. "We've been preparing for this moment for 10 years. Now, we need your help. Your knowledge of Relaxus and your connection to the people will be crucial. Can you coordinate groundside operations while we handle the space battle?" Zara straightened. "Absolutely, Admiral. I've already identified safe landing zones in the Crystal Forests. We can establish refugee collection points and medical stations immediately." "Good. We're sending down supply shuttles with food, medicine, and defensive equipment. The first wave will arrive at coordinates I'm transmitting now." As the battle raged above, Zara prepared to leave the observation post. For years, she had watched, bound by Alliance regulations against interference. Now, finally, she could act. Within hours, Earth's energy cushion boats were descending through the atmosphere, navigating the hidden landing zones throughout the Crystal Forests. Zara led the first team, carrying supplies to the scattered Vendlari refugees. It was during this operation that she reunited with Kyle Ren. Her childhood friend had grown from the carefree boy she remembered into a hardened soldier, his eyes carrying the weight of all he'd witnessed. "Zara," he exclaimed when she stepped off the shuttle. "I thought you were still with the Alliance." "I am," she replied, embracing him briefly. "But today, I'm also with Earth. They've come to help us, Kyle." Together, they established a distribution network, using Earth-made drones to locate refugee groups and deliver essential supplies. As they worked, Zara taught Kale basic Terran military terms, while he shared updates on Vendlari spiritual practices that had evolved during her years away. "Our people believe more strongly than ever in the Tier of Fate," he explained, as they loaded medical supplies onto a hovercart. "When everything else was taken from us, faith remained." Zara nodded, touching the pendant beneath her uniform. "My mother would be pleased. She always worried I was becoming too disconnected from our traditions." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from Zara's communication device. The Galactic Alliance had issued a formal protest against Earth's intervention, claiming violation of the Non-Intervention Treaty. The message demanded that Colonel Holt report to Alliance headquarters immediately to explain her role in facilitating Earth's territorial aggression. "What will you do?" Kale asked, reading the concern on her face. Zara's jaw tightened. "My duty. The real one, not the one written in Alliance protocols." She composed her response. "No one is permitted to intervene, yet we have come. Gentlemen, please wake up. This is no longer an internal dispute. This is genocide." She sent the message knowing it might end her career, but some principles transcended professional advancement. In orbit, the battle intensified. The Krith Dominion, recovering from the initial shock, had organized a counterattack. Their dreadnoughts moved into position, using anti-physical light bridges to deflect Earth's energy beams back at the Thunder Squadron. Half of Earth's fighters erupted in explosions as their own weapons were turned against them. Archon Caesar, sensing advantage, activated the Lightning Phallus Beam, an energy bomb designed to trigger nuclear reactions in enemy vessels. Aboard the ISS Aurora, Sergeant Callie Mendez made a split-second decision. As acting captain after her superior officers had been incapacitated, she ordered a surprise spearhead maneuver, driving her ship through the edge of the Krith formation. At the crucial moment, she detonated the ship's NODK, internal bombs, causing 2 Krith dreadnoughts to disintegrate into columns of smoke. That single moment shifted the momentum of the battle. On the planet's surface, Kale Ren and the Vendlari refugees witnessed the quantum detonation from a crystal bridge. They watched in awe as a dreadnought plummeted toward the forest, trailing electrical fire through the ancient trees. The ground trembled with the impact, and for a moment, everyone held their breath, understanding that Relaxus Prime might suffer catastrophic damage if the ship's core exploded on impact. In her command center, Colonel Zara Holt monitored the space battle with growing concern. The tactical displays showed that just one more step, and the Vendlari world would truly be safe. But she also understood that if they shot down Archon Caesar now, the Galactic Alliance might attack Earth as an aggressor. She was torn between the ideal of unconditional protection and the risk of being charged with invasion. Finally, she decided, if we let evil survive, in whose name do we prevent them from killing humanity? Admiral Vale led the Iron Citadel Squadron in a direct assault on Caesar's command ship. Simultaneously, Zara Holt took control of a super-heavy laser tower positioned on a crystal ore mine on Relaxus Prime's surface, where the Vendlari government had installed an FTL link. As Archon Caesar targeted his weapons at the ISS Aurora, Zara activated 3 converging crystal laser beams, penetrating the dreadnought's armor shields. Caesar's ship disintegrated into fragments, brilliant light spreading across the orbit. With their highest-ranking commander lost, the Krith forces ordered a full retreat. The immediate aftermath left abandoned Krith ships and technological debris scattered throughout the orbit. Earth quickly moved to prevent decoding of Vendlari crystal technology, fearing the Krith might have obtained some of its secrets. The Galactic Alliance summoned Earth's ambassador. You have violated treaties and killed Krith lives right under the Alliance's nose, even though the Krith aren't Alliance members. Dazed by the chaotic aftermath, several hardline factions within the Alliance hoped to impose comprehensive sanctions on Earth. On Relaxus, Kale Ren and the villagers emerged from the Great Forest, witnessing the landscape strewn with ship debris, crystal shards glistening under green light. The people wept, not from fear, but because for the first time, they saw a clear blue sky, a sky no longer filled with Krith bombs. Kaelin Nerith, the orphaned Vendlari girl, found a fragment of an incense lantern, a spiritual symbol carrying hope. When she placed her hand on the fragment, light sparked from the crystal, as if answering her prayer. Zara stood nearby, moved by this moment of transmitted hope. In the Galactic Alliance Assembly, representatives of various species divided into clear factions, those accusing Earth of violating interplanetary law, and those defending its humanitarian action. Ultimately, the Alliance only dared to warn Earth, unwilling to impose severe penalties due to the widespread public support for Earth's actions throughout the galaxy. Earth re-established its position. The Warfleet Alpha was transformed into the League of Free Haven, an international organization led by Earth, calling for vulnerable planets to join for protection. Under the guidance of Zara and Kale Ren, the Vendlari people united to rebuild their crystal cities, combining traditional architecture with Earth technology, constructing the Harmony Spires atop Water God Mountain, a symbol that water doesn't run dry, hope doesn't extinguish. Kaelin Nareth, now grown, was appointed as celestial emissary, maintaining the spiritual connection between Vendlari and Earth. She represented the young generation understanding that power is truly invincible only when coupled with altruism. The ISS Aurora anchored beside a floating trading station near Jupiter, preparing to receive numerous Vendlari refugee replicas from Relaxis Prime. Zara Holt stood on the deck, gazing toward the massive galactic current, whispering, "No one is permitted to intervene, but we came. Now, we will never leave." The observation dome of the Alliance outpost offered the most devastating view of Relaxis Prime. Colonel Zara Holt stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as another crystal tower collapsed under Krith bombardment. The translucent structures, once the pride of Vendlari architecture, shattered like frozen tears, raining shimmering fragments onto the forest canopy below. 7th District completely evacuated. Colonel, reported Lieutenant Naresh, sliding a datapad across the console. Refugee count now exceeds 3 million. The forest sanctuaries are at triple capacity. Zara nodded without turning. Her azure-tinted skin, a marker of her Vendlari heritage, seemed to darken with each new report. The pendant beneath her uniform felt unusually heavy today, a constant reminder of her mother's final words. "Any response from the Alliance Council?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Same as yesterday, Colonel. The non-intervention directive stands. They're classifying this as an internal planetary dispute, despite our evidence of systematic genocide." Zara's jaw tightened. For 2 weeks, she had followed protocol, filing reports, submitting evidence, escalating requests through proper channels. For 2 weeks, the Galactic Alliance had responded with bureaucratic silence, while the Krith Dominion methodically destroyed everything her mother's people had built over millennia. "Show me the transport incident footage again," she commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a convoy of simple vehicles fleeing a burning crystal settlement. Children's faces pressed against windows, elders clutching sacred artifacts. Then came the Krith interceptors, their weapon systems dispassionately targeting each vehicle. The neutralization was quick, efficient, methodical. "Enough." Zara turned away from the recording. "Prepare another transmission to Earth. Override encryption protocols. Use my personal authorization codes." Lieutenant Naresh hesitated. "Colonel, contacting Earth directly violates." "I know what it violates," Zara snapped, then softened her tone. "I'm not asking you to send it. Naresh, I'll do it myself. Just prepare the channel." When the lieutenant had gone, Zara placed her palm against the observation glass. Somewhere down there, her childhood friend Kale was leading refugees through the ancient forests she had once explored as a girl. Somewhere down there, millions of Vendlari were performing prayer circles, begging the cosmic energy of the Tear of Fate to save them. She activated the transmission system, attaching all footage of the massacres, and added a personal message. "This is Colonel Zara Holt of Relaxis Observation Outpost. The Krith Dominion is systematically eliminating the Vendlari population. The Alliance refuses to act. If Earth still remembers what compassion means, now is the time to show it." She hesitated before adding, "Mother always said you were different from the Alliance, that Earth understood protection meant more than pretty words in a treaty. Please prove her right." Zara sent the transmission, knowing it might cost her career, her freedom, perhaps even her life. But as she watched another crystal spire collapse in the distance, she realized she could no longer live with silence. Deep in the crystal forests of Relaxis Prime, Lieutenant Kale Wren signaled his patrol to halt. Through the translucent trunks, he could see movement, the lumbering forms of Krith manglebeasts. These creatures, once peaceful forest dwellers, had been injected with Vendlari crystal energy, transforming them into living weapons. "Everyone down," he whispered to the refugee group behind him. Not a sound. The refugees, mostly elders and children from the eastern crystal cities, huddled beneath the phosphorescent undergrowth. A small girl, no more than 6 years old, clutched a glowing pendant. Kyle recognized her as Kaylin Nareth, orphaned in the first wave of attacks. She had barely spoken since watching her parents fall defending the temple archives. The mangle beasts prowled closer, their mutated forms twisting unnaturally as they sniffed the air. Crystal shards protruded from their spines, pulsing with stolen energy. Kale readied his energy bow, knowing it would be useless against so many. An elder Vendlari priest began quietly arranging refugees into a prayer circle. "The tear of fate will shield us," he whispered, taking Kalen's small hand in his own. Kale wanted to object, to insist on practical solutions rather than spiritual rituals. But the determined look in the elder's eyes stopped him. What else could he offer them? His military training hadn't prepared him for this. The Vendlari Protection Battalion had been designed for ceremonial duties and minor peacekeeping, not warfare against the Krith Dominion. As the circle formed, a soft blue glow emanated from their joined hands. Kale kept his bow ready, but to his astonishment, the nearest mangle beast paused, tilting its misshapen head as if confused. After a tense moment, the creature turned away, leading its pack in another direction. "The cosmic energy protects us," the elder said simply, though exhaustion lined his face. Kale helped them to their feet. "We need to reach the hidden valley before nightfall. The prayer circle depletes your strength, and we can't risk another encounter." As they resumed their journey, Kaylin tugged at his sleeve. The child hadn't spoken in days, but now she pointed urgently at the sky. Kale looked up through gaps in the crystal canopy and saw distant flashes of light. Not the red destruction of Krith weapons, but brilliant green pulses moving in formation. "What is it, Lieutenant?" asked one of the refugees. Kale shook his head, uncertain. "I don't know, but it's not Krith and it's not Alliance. Let's move faster." In the command center of the Earth warship, ISS Thunderhead, Admiral Marcus Vale studied the holographic display of Relaxus Prime. The planet's distinctive purple atmosphere swirled beneath them, occasionally illuminated by Krith bombardment. "Tactical assessment," he commanded. Commander Jennings stepped forward. Krith forces consist of 1 command carrier, 12 Dreadnought-class vessels, and approximately 60 support craft. They've established orbital dominance and have ground forces deployed across all major crystal cities. Our Thunder Squadron outnumbers them in vessels, but not firepower. The Dreadnoughts carry significant— "I don't mean ship numbers, Commander," Vale interrupted. "I mean the situation. What are we walking into?" Jennings recalibrated. "Systematic elimination of Vendlari population centers, sir. Refugee crisis in the Crystal Forests. Alliance observation post maintaining neutrality, despite having front-row seats to genocide." He hesitated before adding, "Colonel Holt's transmission suggests Alliance forces might actually intervene against us if we engage the Krith." Senator Min Kwan, present as Earth's civilian authority, frowned. The Alliance has forgotten its purpose. They've become so obsessed with maintaining the status quo that they've lost sight of what that status quo should protect. Vale nodded grimly. 10 years ago, Earth left the Alliance because we foresaw this. Bureaucracy overriding morality. We've built this fleet not for conquest, but for moments exactly like this. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all Krith vessels." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scaled, aristocratic features of Archon Césaire. The Krith commander's expression remained coldly neutral as Vale spoke. "Attention Krith Dominion forces. All Vendlari citizens are now under the protection of the Earth Federation. Withdraw immediately from Relaxus Prime." Césaire's response was immediate and dismissive. "This moss-covered species has no strategic value. If you choose to protect them, Prepare to become their shield against our bullets." Vale cut the transmission and turned to his officers. "They've made their choice. Thunder Squadron, engage according to Protocol Umbra. Target propulsion systems and weapons platforms first. Minimize casualties where possible. But make no mistake, we are here to win, not to negotiate." As the Earth fleet moved into attack formation, Vale sent a private message to Colonel Holt's observation post. "No one is permitted to intervene, but we're coming anyway. Hold position. Thunder Squadron ETA, 6 hours." The first battle for Relaxis Prime's orbit happened so quickly that many Vendlari refugees watching from below thought it was merely another light show in the night sky. The Earth vessels struck with surgical precision, disabling Krith scout ships before they could raise their shields. The lightning-fast attack demonstrated technology far beyond what the Krith had anticipated from Earth. On his command ship, Archon Caesar watched with growing rage as his forward screen displayed the destruction of his scout fleet. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Earth was crippled by Alliance sanctions. Their technology should be decades behind ours. His intelligence officer looked up from his console. "It appears they've been developing in secret. Archon, these aren't Alliance standard weapons. They're something new." Caesar's eyes narrowed. "Deploy the Moonblood Claws. All 12 dreadnoughts. I want that Earth flagship reduced to atoms." As the massive dreadnoughts moved into position, Earth's Thunder Squadron regrouped. On the bridge of the ISS Aurora, Sergeant Kaylee Mendez received emergency command after a communications blast incapacitated her superior officers. "Radiation shield tactical formation," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Form 20 microsquadrons and target the crystal towers on each dreadnought. Optimal physics beam at maximum intensity." The Earth fighters executed the maneuver with precision, weaving between the massive Krith vessels to target their vital systems. For a moment, it seemed the strategy would succeed, until the dreadnoughts activated their countermeasures. "Anti-physical light bridges deployed," reported Aurora's tactical officer. "They're reflecting our beams back at us." Mendez watched in horror as half of Earth's fighter squadron erupted in explosions, destroyed by their own weaponry. Warning alarms blared across her bridge as the Krith activated their next weapon system. "Lightning phallus beam charging," the officer shouted over the alarms. "Impact in 15 seconds. Mendez made her decision instantly. "All power to forward engines. Set collision course with the lead dreadnought. Arm no DK internal bombs." Her crew looked at her in shock, but obeyed. The Aurora surged forward, accelerating directly toward the massive Krith vessel. At the last possible moment, Mendez activated the detonation sequence and ordered, "All hands to escape pods." The resulting explosion tore through 2 Krith dreadnoughts, creating a momentary gap in their formation and disrupting the lightning phallus beam. From the bridge of the Thunderhead, Admiral Vale watched the Aurora's sacrifice with grim determination. "The Mendez maneuver," he said quietly. "Note it in the battle records, and prepare the Iron Citadel Squadron for direct engagement with Caesar's command vessel." On the surface of Relaxis Prime, the battle in orbit created spectacular light shows across the night sky. Kale Ren and his refugees had reached the hidden valley, joining thousands of other Vendlari in a massive encampment beneath the crystal canopy. When the first Earth supply shuttles descended through the atmosphere, the refugees watched with mixture of hope and apprehension. Colonel Zara Holt led the first ground team, stepping off the shuttle in her Alliance uniform, modified with Earth insignia. The moment she spotted Kale among the crowd, a wave of emotion washed over her. They had grown up together in the floating crystal cities. Sharing childhood adventures and adolescent dreams before duty had separated them. She to the Alliance Academy. He to the Vendlari Battalion. "Zara?" he approached cautiously, as if not quite believing his eyes. "You're with Earth now?" She smiled, embracing him quickly. Earth remembered what the Alliance forgot. They came when I called. Together, They established distribution centers for the supplies Earth had brought: food, medicine, portable shelter units, and defensive equipment, while other Earth personnel set up perimeter defenses. Zara and Kale worked on a communication network to locate scattered refugee groups. "Your Terran is still excellent," Zara noted, as Kale easily operated the Earth communication devices. "And your Vendlari has grown rusty," he replied with a faint smile. "You've forgotten the prayer words for the distribution of sustenance." "Then remind me," she said, and listened as he recited the ancient blessing. Though her years in space had distanced her from many Vendlari traditions, the familiar words resonated deep within her. Their work was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Alliance Council. Zara read it with growing anger, a formal reprimand demanding she appear before the Council to explain her complicity in Earth's violation of galactic sovereignty. "They sit in their protected chambers while my people die, and now they demand I justify saving lives," she fumed. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "What will you do?" Zara composed her response immediately. "No one is permitted to intervene. Yet we have come. Gentlemen, please wake up. This is no longer an internal dispute. This is genocide." After sending it, she turned to Kale with renewed determination. "Now we continue our work. Earth is fighting for us in orbit. We'll fight for our people on the ground." The space battle intensified as the Krith dreadnoughts regrouped. Earth's initial advantage of surprise had faded, and now the superior firepower of the Krith vessels threatened to overwhelm them. Admiral Vale ordered his fleet to adopt a defensive posture, buying time while he consulted with Colonel Holt on the surface. "We need a decisive strike against Caesar's command ship," Vale explained, over the secure channel. "But our frontal attacks can't penetrate their defenses." Zara considered the tactical display. "There might be another way. The crystal mines on the northern continent contain focusing arrays the Vendlari used for atmospheric control. With some modifications, they could become surface-to-orbit weapons." "Can you access them?" "Yes, but I'll need Kale's help. The mine systems only respond to Vendlari energy signatures." Vale nodded. "Do it. We'll create a diversion to keep Caesar's attention focused on us." Zara and Kale set out immediately, taking a small team of Earth technicians and Vendlari guides. They traveled by hover transport through the crystal forest, navigating narrow paths between ancient translucent trunks that reached hundreds of meters into the sky. "The forest feels different," Zara noted as they moved deeper into the wilderness. "More aware." Kale nodded solemnly. "The crystal heart awakened when the attacks began. The elders say it's responding to the collective fear of our people." The crystal heart, the semi-sentient network connecting all crystal formations on Relaxis Prime. Zara had grown up hearing stories about it, but had dismissed them as mythology. Now, surrounded by the pulsing light of the crystal trees, she wasn't so sure. They reached the northern mines as dawn broke over the horizon. The massive crystal formations, normally dormant, glowed with internal energy. Kale led them to the central control chamber, a cathedral-like space where massive crystal pillars converged. "We need to redirect the atmospheric control beam," Zara explained to the technicians. "Convert it from weather modulation to a focused energy weapon." While the Earth technicians began their modifications, Kale placed his hands on the central crystal. "I need to ask permission," he explained to Zara's questioning look. "The crystal heart must consent to being used as a weapon." Zara waited anxiously as Kale communed with the crystal. After several minutes, the entire chamber pulsed with blue light. "It understands," Kale said quietly. "It knows the Krith threaten all life on Relaxis." With the crystal heart's cooperation, the modifications proceeded rapidly. Zara contacted Admiral Vale to coordinate their attack. "We're ready on our end," she reported. "The crystal array can generate 3 convergent beams powerful enough to penetrate dreadnought shields. But we'll only get one shot before the system needs to recharge." "Understood," Vale replied. "The Iron Citadel Squadron will engage Caesar's command ship directly, drawing his fire. When his shields rotate to face us, hit him from behind. In orbit. The final phase of the battle began. Earth's remaining vessels launched a frontal assault on Caesar's command ship, drawing heavy fire. The Krith commander, confident in his superior firepower, focused all energy on destroying the approaching Earth fleet. "Their desperation is pathetic," Caesar remarked, as he watched Earth ships sustain heavy damage. "Once we've eliminated their flagship, the rest will flee." On the surface, Zara monitored the battle through a tactical display. "Caesar's shield configuration is shifting," she observed. "All power directed forward. We have our window." She nodded to Kale, who activated the crystal array. 3 massive beams of blue-white energy erupted from the mine complex, converging as they shot into orbit. The beams struck Caesar's command ship precisely where its shields were weakest, penetrating the armor and cutting through vital systems. In orbit, Admiral Vale watched as the Krith flagship erupted in a series of catastrophic explosions. Secondary detonations cascaded through the massive vessel as its power core destabilized. "Archon Caesar's ship has been neutralized," reported his tactical officer. "Remaining Krith vessels are breaking formation. They're retreating." Vale allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before issuing his next orders. "Secure the area. I want recovery teams on any abandoned Krith vessels. Their technology could help us understand what they were really after on Relaxis Prime." In the aftermath of the battle, the true scale of what Earth had done began to sink in. They had directly opposed the Krith Dominion, a significant power in the galactic sector, and they had done so against the explicit policy of the Galactic Alliance. The Alliance Council convened an emergency session, summoning representatives from both Earth and the Krith Dominion. Senator Min Quan attended on Earth's behalf, facing the assembled delegates with dignified composure. "Earth stands by its actions," Quan stated firmly. "When faced with the systematic extermination of an entire species, neutrality becomes complicity. We acted because you would not." The Krith representative, a subordinate of the deceased Archon Caesar, hissed with barely contained fury. "The Dominion demands reparations for this unprovoked attack on our legitimate military operation. The Vendlari are not Alliance members. Their fate was not your concern." "All sentient life is our concern," Quan replied evenly. "A principle the Alliance seems to have forgotten." The debate raged for days. Some Alliance members, particularly the Laoran and Amarak delegations, voiced support for Earth's intervention, arguing that peace is merely a lie if we turn away from genocide. Others condemned Earth's unilateral action as destabilizing to galactic order. In the end, the Alliance issued a formal warning to Earth, unwilling to impose harsher sanctions due to growing public support for Earth's actions across numerous worlds. The Krith Dominion, having lost significant military assets and their commanding Archon, retreated to lick their wounds. But everyone knew they would not forget this defeat. On Relaxis Prime, reconstruction began immediately. Earth established a permanent presence, helping the Vendlari rebuild their crystal cities with enhanced defensive capabilities. The floating crystal structures, once purely artistic and spiritual in design, now incorporated practical elements of Earth technology. Kellen Nereth, the orphan child who had witnessed so much destruction, found purpose in the reconstruction. Under Zara and Kale's guidance, she began training as a celestial emissary, a new role bridging Vendlari spiritual traditions with Earth's pragmatic approach to galactic politics. "The tear of fate guided Earth to us," she told Zara one evening as they watched workers raising a new crystal spire atop Water God Mountain. "But it was your voice that called them." Zara smiled, touching the pendant she now wore openly. "Sometimes the cosmic energy needs a little help from technology and determination." The crowning achievement of the reconstruction was the Harmony Spires, a complex of 7 crystal towers built atop Water God Mountain. The spires served as both a spiritual center for the Vendlari and a powerful defensive installation capable of protecting the planet from future attacks. During the dedication ceremony, Kyle and Zara stood side by side as representatives of the new Vendlari Earth Alliance. They watched as Kalen, now recognized as the youngest celestial emissary in Vendlari history, led the gathered crowd in the traditional blessing. "Water doesn't run dry. Hope doesn't extinguish," the crowd chanted in unison, their voices echoing through the crystal structures. Later, as Earth vessels patrolled the skies that had once been dominated by Krith warships, Zara found herself aboard the ISS Aurora, repaired and recommissioned after Sergeant Mendez's heroic action. Standing on the observation deck, she gazed toward the swirling cosmic current that connected Relaxus Prime to the wider galaxy. "No one is permitted to intervene," she whispered to herself, recalling the Alliance directive that had constrained her for so long. "But we came anyway, and now we will never leave." 10 years later, the consequences of Earth's intervention at Relaxus Prime continued to reshape galactic politics. The League of Free Haven, founded in the aftermath of the battle, had grown to include dozens of worlds, seeking protection from larger powers. Earth, once isolated after its withdrawal from the Alliance, now stood at the center of a new interstellar community, built on principles of mutual defense and respect for sovereignty. Zara Holt, now Admiral Holt, commanded the League's defensive fleet from the newly constructed Relaxus Station. The massive installation, built from a combination of Vendlari crystal technology and Earth engineering, orbited the planet as both protector and symbol of their lasting partnership. Kale Ren had risen to become the Vendlari High Protector, overseeing planetary security and serving as liaison between his people and the League. His once small battalion had evolved into a sophisticated defense force, incorporating both traditional Vendlari methods and Earth tactical innovations. And Kaelin Nerith, the orphaned girl who had clutched her pendant in the dark forest, had grown into her role as celestial emissary with wisdom beyond her years. Her unique ability to communicate with the Crystal Heart had proven invaluable, allowing the Vendlari to harness their planet's energy in ways previously unimagined. The Galactic Alliance, forced to reckon with the popularity of Earth's more proactive approach to protection, had gradually reformed its non-intervention policies. Though relations remained strained, diplomatic channels had reopened, with some Alliance members quietly seeking closer ties to the League. The Krith Dominion, however, had not forgotten. After years of rebuilding their forces, intelligence reports suggested they were forming alliances with other expansionist powers. Rumors spread of a new weapon being developed, something that could neutralize crystal energy at its source. As these reports reached Relaxus Station, Admiral Holt called a meeting of the League's Leadership Council. Representatives from each member world gathered in the crystal chamber, their faces reflecting concern. "The Krith are moving again," Zara announced without preamble. "Our intelligence suggests they're planning something significant, possibly targeting League worlds." "Are we certain they would risk another confrontation?" asked the Talarian representative. "Their defeat at Relaxus was decisive. They've had a decade to prepare," Kale pointed out. "And the new Archon has made restoring Krith honor his primary objective." Kalen, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "The Crystal Heart has been restless. It senses disturbances beyond our current perception." Admiral Holt nodded, having learned to trust Kalen's connection to Relaxus Prime's sentient network. "Then we must prepare. Not just Relaxus, but all League worlds." As the Council discussed defensive strategies, Zara found herself reflecting on how far they had come from that desperate moment when she had sent an unauthorized plea to Earth. The decision to intervene, to reject the doctrine of non-interference when faced with genocide, had altered the course of galactic history. Later, standing alone in her quarters aboard Relaxus Station, she removed the pendant she had worn since childhood. The crystal caught the light, reminding her of her mother's wisdom and the lessons of the past decade. "The cosmic energy guides lost souls," she murmured, echoing her mother's words. "But sometimes, we must be the guides ourselves." Outside her viewport, the combined Earth-Vendlari fleet maintained its vigilant patrol. The crystal cities below glowed with internal light, their spires reaching toward the stars like hopeful fingers. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The people who had learned that sometimes the most necessary action was to intervene when no one else would. The legend of the Thunder Squadron and the Battle of Relaxus Prime spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring other worlds to stand against oppression. In countless homes across dozens of planets, children grew up hearing the story of how Earth defied the powerful Galactic Alliance to save a people they barely knew. Guided by the simple principle that protection of innocent life transcended political convenience. On the anniversary of the battle each year, the crystal forests of Relaxus Prime illuminated with commemorative energy, visible even from distant space, a reminder that when the universe offered only darkness, unexpected allies had brought light. And in the Great Hall of the Harmony Spires, a simple inscription captured the lesson that had reshaped galactic politics. No one is permitted to intervene, but we came anyway. Archon Caesar's personal log, recovered from the wreckage of his command ship, revealed a startling truth. The Krith Dominion's interest in Relaxus Prime had never been merely territorial. The crystal technology of the Vendlari contained properties that, if properly harnessed, could revolutionize faster-than-light travel and weapons development. The genocide had been a cover for technological theft, the systematic elimination of the Vendlari designed to hide the Dominion's true objective. This revelation further vindicated Earth's intervention and strengthened the resolve of the League of Free Haven. What had begun as a humanitarian mission had inadvertently prevented a shift in the balance of power that could have threatened countless worlds. As knowledge of the Krith's true intention spread, even the Galactic Alliance was forced to acknowledge that Earth's actions, while procedurally improper, had prevented a greater catastrophe. The doctrine of non-intervention began to evolve, incorporating provisions for response to genocide and technological appropriation through force. Admiral Vale, addressing the 10th graduation class of the League Defense Academy on Earth, summarized the lesson succinctly. Power without compassion is not power at all. It is merely force, and force, without the guidance of moral principle, inevitably destroys itself. The Vendlari, for their part, honored their Earth allies by sharing carefully controlled aspects of crystal technology. The partnership led to advancements in medicine, sustainable energy, and environmental restoration that benefited worlds throughout the League. Kaelin Nerith, now fully grown into her role as celestial emissary, established academies on multiple planets where the spiritual wisdom of the Vendlari blended with the scientific approach of Earth and other League members. Her teachings emphasized that strength is truly invincible only when coupled with altruism, a philosophy that gradually permeated League culture. The crystal forests of Relaxus Prime, once nearly destroyed, flourished under the combined care of Vendlari tradition and Earth science. The Crystal Heart, responding to the harmony between the two peoples, extended its network, creating new growth that incorporated elements of both cultures. Trees with DNA structures influenced by Earth biology, yet still connected to the planet's sentient network. And in the quiet moments between crises and celebrations, Zara Holt and Kale Wren would sometimes walk together through these forests, marveling at how their childhood playground had become the symbol of a new approach to galactic citizenship, one where the strong protected the vulnerable, not out of political obligation, but because it was simply the right thing to do. "Do you ever regret it?" Kale asked her once, as they stood beneath crystal boughs that filtered the sunset into rainbow patterns. "Sending that message to Earth? Risking everything?" Zara watched as a group of Vendlari and Earth children played together near a crystal spring, their laughter echoing through the luminescent trees. "Not for a moment," she replied. "Some lines must be drawn, even against the most powerful institutions, especially against them." As darkness fell, the forest illuminated with its natural bioluminescence, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light would find a way to persist, just as courage and compassion had found their way to Relaxus Prime when hope seemed lost. The Battle of Relaxus Prime became more than a military engagement. It became a turning point in galactic ethics. The simple decision to intervene when intervention was forbidden had created ripples that continued to spread, challenging old assumptions and creating new possibilities for cooperation across the stars. And it had all begun with a desperate message, sent by a half-Vendlari colonel, who refused to watch her mother's people vanish into history, while the powerful stood by and called it protocol. As Admiral Holt prepared the League fleet for whatever challenges the resurgent Krith Dominion might bring, she carried that knowledge with her, the understanding that sometimes the most important regulations were the ones you had the courage to break. The sky above Relaxus Prime, once burning with terrible red laser beams, now shimmered with the protective green lights of the Earth Vendlari defense grid. The roars of warrior beasts had been replaced by the songs of children learning both Terran and Vendlari languages. And the command that no one is permitted to intervene had been superseded by a new principle, that in the face of genocide, everyone was obligated to act. It wasn't a perfect solution. There would always be questions about when intervention was justified, about who should decide, about the balance between sovereignty and protection. But on Relaxus Prime, as the crystal spires reached toward the stars and the forest pulsed with renewed life, one thing was certain: silence in the face of annihilation was no virtue, and action in defense of the innocent was no crime. And that, perhaps, was the most important lesson of all.